You don't know how much I do want to thank you for the opportunity to come back. In reality, after the last time, I thought, well, we're going to have to really dig down and cut. At a time, more cuts. This is what I had discussion. I need to point out something that we all know, but just point of emphasis. It was just mentioned here what this means if we get just this quarter. It was to maintain the services. What was presented to you was a cut of $5 million or so because the revenues was obviously changed because what is happening. But we had to cut so many things, proposed cuts to you that you would have to make, like we did, very uncomfortable type of cuts. When you say this maintains, that means we can go. I asked the question because my mentality was we had to ask departments to cut 3 times to present to you a balanced budget. Remember, that was all before the eruption occurrence. That's what we were trying to find. And asking you to understand that if we don't get this, then we cannot even maintain what we have here, which was not maintain the present. It was to cut $5 million more. That's how serious this is. But where I disagreed very strongly as time went on, because I have a benefit of present sight instead of hindsight, I really feel that $5 million are going to be very short. Every morning at 7 o'clock, we have a briefing on the Civil Defense Office with all the agencies there. And I'm really trying to stick to the subject, but I assure you it's not that easy when you're involved in that, what's happening every morning and every day. I asked for the count this morning. What is the latest count? Well, we lost 2 more homes in Kapoho. And that makes 668 homes we lost. What we never did present to you, because that is not within our damage assessment to justify to the president and the governor the need for federal and state assistance, was loss of farm element. That's a tremendous loss that's going on right now in Puna. I'm trying to find ways to see if we can make emergency kitty cat roads if possible, so farmers who've slaved for a year and more could save some of their papaya or their noni or other things, and which I'm finding very difficult. This one area I wanted to see if we could help this papaya farmer who is pleading for some way to help him save his papaya crop. The estimate was $668,000 just to kitty cat a road, which I don't have. I want to emphasize this. The county of Hawaii is in a very, very difficult situation at this time. I cannot even project what will be tomorrow. The amount of lava that is coming out of Fissure 8, I hate the name Fissure 8. I thought, shouldn't we name it something better than Fissure 8? It's something that none of us refers to all of the geologists has ever seen before. The loss of direct revenues and indirect revenues because of the closure of the national park is unbelievable. And because of loss of revenues. Talking to many of the business personnel in a volcano that depends on the national park, their cuts of anywhere from 50 to 80 to 90% of loss of business. And I think statistics will show you that the Volcano National Park is the second most visited park, place in the state of Hawaii, next to only Pearl Harbor. I don't think that park will ever reopen the way it was. Hawaii Volcano Observatory tells me, which they're a tenant there, they're already making provisions to see where they can go. They work with us 24 hours a day now at the Civil Defense Office and now occupying a space at the University of Hawaii. If you've never seen pictures of Halimau, you won't recognize that place. That place is so unstable. This is what I meant to say disagreement with finance department on your projected loss. The $5 million to me is going to be a scratch. Please remember what that $5 million represented, sir. It was to balance a budget because our revenues was cut because of the loss of so many things in Pune. Not to balance the budget to maintain services that we have now. It was after we cut so much more. And please don't interpret this as lecturing, because I'm not. It's a plea to you of how much this island needs for us to stabilize things. Way back when, that some of you remember when we were going through such an economic crisis in the year 2000 to 2006. Our revenue was short. We borrowed $50 million when we were very short. For what? To build the community center, civic center in Kona, with the rationale that this was a time for government to step forward and borrow money so we could stimulate a little bit the construction industry in West Hawaii. And that's where the center was built. How it was built, because we borrowed that money. Also, to use the money in regards to the Keho Hokulele Highway, the planning, over $1 million. This situation is worse, that I'm pleading with all of you. Don't look at it that we're just trying to find $5 million. And that very touching letter that is of reality that Ms. Rogers read, I say to all the poor people that don't want us to raise it, take a look at who's paying it. When we say regressive, progressive, we're talking about the tax system that measures what % of the money you have for expenditures are spent for that. It doesn't measure who pays the totality of it, because the people with money pays obviously much more. Just look at those figures, probably 10 times more. But beyond that, look where the benefits that we propose that goes to. The vast majority of it goes to the poor. Look at the tax system that you have fixed, that we really make sure, like the last time we raised the taxes before you of almost 6% across the board, but not to the homeowners, not to affordable housing, because that's where our priorities were not to touch. And look where we're spending the money this time. But even putting that all aside, I think this is a time where the island of Hawaii needs for us, instead of cutting services, not only maintain, but to even increase. I know how unpopular that is, but as I told you last time I was here, every single community that has asked for a meeting with me in the past year and a half or so, basically it was to increase services. Ask the police, whether it be Kona, Hilo, Puna, Ka'u, Kohala, give us more police officers. Well, that's obviously very expensive to do that. And I don't care what it is. Why aren't you maintaining our parks? Look how you had to close it because of this or that. I don't want to just maintain the services of this island. Our job is when we come forward to you and the people of this island, that we can very proudly say that we feel that this is a very good tax system because of who it addresses and how we're going to spend it. You nine up there knows that I do not spend $1 of the budget without your approval. All this insinuation, accusation by some, not by you, by some, that you got to watch us. How are we going to spend the money? Like last time it was in the paper, don't trust Harry Kim on what he says. Obviously I'm offended, greatly offended. because I take great pride in how we spend their money. Because you're my check and balance. You know that. And in closing of this time, I'm saying 668 homes, not counting all of those things related to farms, are lost. If you were at the emergency meeting just a couple of days ago, I told them our work has just begun of helping these people. And some of it going to be a very, very long-term difficult task in trying to work with the federal and the state in trying to help the farmers see where they can go from here of and Pahoehoe, which you'll never farm in anybody's lifetime here, to someplace else, but they can continue farming. But the 668 homes today, and many of which are going to look for places to rent or live, so we can come up with programs to make it affordable to them. And as I close and speak to you, I know this. There are people that are listening that are saying, I'm full of it. Why should government help these people? I can show you email that asking me to resign because of the ridiculousness of what I'm proposing to you, that we must help these people. I say we must. I say we must not just maintain the services, but there are some we need to increase, yes, the unpleasantness of the costs. All of you know that every community wants more police officers. Look what we had to turn down to the chief in his budget to meet this balanced budget. His simple proposal of promotions of certain people. That's part of the 5 million. That's not an increase. That's a police chief trying to improve his services. And I'm saying, no, I can't do it. I have to tell you, I think it is time that we really take a look at things and not just maintain. I want to address very heavily our homeless. You know, we submitted to you, and I think we're making a head start on it. I want to make a transit system. I want to make a program of improvement in regards to all of us facilities instead of catch up, like raising a fuel tax after 30 years because we just want to maintain and don't increase taxes. Ladies of the council and gentlemen of the council, this county needs your help. We need this net revenues. It's not a tremendous amount. It calls for 0.25% that is identified who pays for it. Truthfully, I wish it was a 0.5% so we can make greater strides. And I will say this in closing. There are costs coming up next year that I have nothing to do with. You have nothing to do with it. And we're going to have to come back to you to raise taxes again if this is not approved. You know that. You know all of that. That's not a threat. Yeah. I have very little control of so much of the costs imposed on us. Our job is to find the money to meet those costs. I promised you before. At that time it was a 0.5, now it's a 0.25. The promise is the same. You will approve every dollar I ask for. I just make the proposal to you how I want to spend it.